Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first edition of a Gridiron Football Player of the Week show. And I always love this show because for one reason only, football is back. And that's why we love doing it. So, Jace, LeJeune, alongside Nick Mautone. Nick, appreciate you joining me here. First time, we'll do this every single week. Talk about some of the top performances around the country. Last year, it was our first year doing this show. It was a really successful show, one of the top things during the fall. But this year is not going to be just Louisiana. It's Louisiana top heavy just for this first week, but we're trying to branch out and make it more of a national Player of the Week show. And we got one guy that's from outside the state of Louisiana we'll talk about. But Nick, appreciate you joining me. It's going to be a really fun countdown we're about to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. So coming in at number 10 is Dillon Compton, quarterback from Bunkie High School.
Yeah, Dillon Compton had a pretty big showing and really looked really well in that game. We look at the stat line. It's against a pretty good program too. The 40 Catholic Point Compete we actually got a chance to watch them a couple weeks ago against Episcopal. 47-12 win over Catholic Point Compete, but a lot of the points was because of Dillon Compton, what he was able to do with his legs and with his arm, especially with his legs. He had 19 carries, 230 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He also completed 10 of 13 passes for 113 yards and another touchdown. So 5 touchdowns he accounted for, over 300 yards of offense, and he pretty much led the way for 47-12 victory. Pretty impressive stat line for Dillon Compton at number 10.
Yeah, that's right. And coming in at number 9, we have Diesel Solari.
Yep, Diesel.
Quarterback from Cecilia.
Yeah, Diesel Solari, you're right, Nick. Comes in at number 9, and really Diesel was a diesel for him, for Cecilia. We actually called his name a couple of times last year on the Gridiron Football Player of the Week show. He does a little bit of everything. He's a pretty good athlete for him. Completed 7 of 9 passes for 97 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had 11 carries, 94 yards. And then add in this. Not every quarterback returns kicks, but he returns kicks for Cecilia. Had a 96-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Oh, wow. And then also blocked a punt on special teams. So he does a little bit of everything, whether it's playing quarterback or playing special teams. He did a little bit of everything. A really good opponent, too, that Cecilia played, St. Martinville, a 49-27 win over the Tigers.
Yeah, coming in at number 8, we have Kylan Billiot, the Terrebonne wide receiver.
He's a good one. Everybody knows about Kylan Billiot. If you go look at our website and look at our magazine, go GridironFootballUSA.com. We have a lot of features on Kylan. He is an LSU commit for the 2024 class. He's a really good player. Everybody knows about that. And when you have a really good player like that that's going to play at LSU, he's going to usually post some pretty good stat lines, just like the one he posted on Friday night in a 42-7 win over South Terrebonne. Had 7 catches, 131 yards, and 4 touchdowns in a 42-7 win. Kylan Billiot, what can you say about him, Nick? He's pretty tough to cover. I know it was tough for LSU, those Florida State receivers. Well, it was tough for the Gators to cover a guy like Kylan Billiot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're excited to see him in 2 years at LSU. Now, coming in at number 7, we have Kevin Rideau. Did I say it right?
Yeah, Kevin Rideau.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a wide receiver from Westlake.
Yeah, pretty good percentage that he showed this past Friday. He has 4 catches in a 47 win over the Quincy, but 3 of them went for touchdowns. So that's a pretty good batting average right there, 3 for 4. So 3 touchdown catches, only 4 receptions, but the yardage is pretty impressive too. 193 yards on 4 catches.
Wow.
I'm not a really good math expert, but that's a pretty good yards per catch average right there.
It's about 50 yards a catch, which is crazy.
Yeah, you're better at math than I am, so there you go, Nick. Yeah. Crunching up the numbers. So we climbing up the list at number 6.
That's going to be Caden Dixon, the Center High School in Texas running back.
You mentioned it. So first time on the Gridiron Football Player of the Week list, we have a player coming in from outside the state of Louisiana. Like I mentioned before, I appreciate all the coaches that come in and submit their submission for the Gridiron Football Player of the Week, and we're actually inviting some national guys too. So it's not just Louisiana. Case in point, Caden Dixon, who's also going to be our first player invited to our Gridiron, who's actually committed to play in our Gridiron Football All-American Bowl game, and he's definitely been a Gridiron Football All-American for us with a stat line like this. That's like a normal day at the office for Caden Dixon. 19 carries for 337 yards and 4 touchdowns. And here's the kicker, Nick. He had a 5th touchdown called back because it turns out that the referees threw a flag on Caden celebrating before scoring. So they took that touchdown off the board. Wow. So it could have been even more for Caden Dixon. And they don't just run every single play too, but when they do, they give it to Caden Dixon. And man, what a highlight reel he is. Got a couple D1 offers, no ULM offered him. We're excited for him to play in our bowl game this year. Excited to see what he can do against some great competition. But it was all Caden Dixon and that one for Center, Texas, in a 66-20 win over Spring Hill High School. And then we go into our top 5. But as we go into our top 5, Nick, before you do mention number 5, once again, appreciate everybody that had a submission for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. We had over 30 responses this week, which is very impressive. And we can't mention all of them on the show, but if you go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com, you will get to read about everybody that has been submitted as honorable mentions, plus a little bit more info on their top 10. But that being said, Nick, let's go into our top 5.
That's right. Coming in at number 5, we have Parker Fulghum, the Evangel wide receiver.
He's a pretty good one. We wrote an article about him and his brother Peyton, and actually Peyton and Parker, they're brothers. So the quarterback's a brother and the wide receiver's a brother. So they got pretty good chemistry already, as you can imagine. Right. They're the sons of former LSU quarterback Josh Booty. That's their dad. So some pretty good genes right there. Parker Fulghum wasn't playing against any sloppy competition either. He went up against Neville. The Neville Tigers, one of the top programs in Louisiana, especially in North Louisiana. But his stat line was pretty crazy, and Parker has actually put up some pretty crazy stat lines. This is another one. 11 catches, 234 yards, Nick, on 11 catches, scored 3 touchdowns. And despite all that, they came up just this close to winning. They lost 30-29 against Neville in a classic. And Parker Fulghum, well, he definitely did his part in helping the Eagles at least have a chance of getting a big victory over Neville. A chance to get a big victory over Neville, even though it came up just this close, this short.
That's right. Now jumping into our top 4, we have Abram Johnston, the quarterback from Parkview Baptist.
This is another high-scoring game, but fortunately for Abram Johnston and Parkview Baptist, they were on top. And you can really make the argument you should really be a combination of for number 4 with Abram Johnston and what the Dunham quarterback did as well. And he's going to be a very special one, still really early in age. So it's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be a really fun matchup, which we saw on Friday night. A lot of points being scored on the board, right, Nick? 52-46.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a pretty crazy game. That was a pretty crazy game.
So Elijah Haven was the Dunham quarterback. He did really good. He put up some big stats in that one, but Abram Johnston was the guy that was on top of that shootout. Abram Johnston's stats completed 13 of 18 for 232 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. Also had 14 carries, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns in a 52-46 win over Dunham.
Yeah, that was a pretty great stat line, but we have some crazier ones coming up. At number 3, we have Ashton Levi, the Bogalusa quarterback.
Another high-scoring game. We're seeing a little bit of a trend when we go into the top 5, right, Nick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So another high-scoring matchup, Bogalusa and Franklinton. These are 2 rivals. Ashton Levi has been a guy throughout his whole career that's been near the top of the state of Louisiana as far as passing goes and passing stats and touchdowns. And he put up a pretty big some pretty big numbers once again for Coach Crutchfield at Bogalusa. Completed only 12 passes, but for 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then also accounted for him with his legs, 169 yards rushing and 2 more touchdowns. And then he also accounted for 2 two-point conversions in a 36-31 win over Franklinton. So if you do the math, that's 3 touchdown passes. That's 18 points right there.
That's right.
And then you do the 2 touchdowns, so that's 30 points right there. Plus the 2-point conversions. That's 34 out of 36 points.
Yep.
So big reason why they won, right?
That's right. That's right. Coming in at number 2, we have the Istrouma High School athlete, Kyree Paul.
This was a long-awaited debut for Coach Sid Edwards at Istrouma. Coming in, he had plenty of success at Redemptress, at Central High School, and now is his first ever game coaching for the Istrouma Indians. And it was quite a debut for not only Coach Edwards, but for Kyree Paul, because Kyree Paul had a very rare stat line, Nick, and especially for somebody coming all the way up at number 2 to only touch the ball 5 times. That's even more impressive in what he was able to do. So out of the 5 times he got a hand on the football, right? This is what he did. He had a 68-yard punt return for a touchdown, a 72-yard punt return for a touchdown, a 35-yard interception return for a touchdown, and then a 75-yard touchdown catch. So 2 punt return touchdowns, an interception return for a touchdown, and a 75-yard touchdown catch in a big victory over Capital, 43-6. I gotta say, I mean, he doesn't touch the ball often, but when he does, boy, watch out.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns on 5 touches is absolutely crazy.
So, Nick, who's our number 1 guy?
That's going to be Lafayette Christian Academy quarterback and LSU commit Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. He's the purple and gold. So this is our second LSU commit on our list. Juwan Johnson he won our Player of the Week before last year in the playoffs. So he's our first ever 2-time winner of our Gridiron Football Player of the Week. Was our Gridiron Football Player of the Year runner-up last year. So I think he's gunning for to be number 1 this year, and he's off to a really good start. And to do it against a program that's a caliber of Acadiana made the numbers even more impressive. Like, Juwan puts up numbers that, Nick, you played Madden, I'm sure. You played NCAA 14. He puts video game numbers up on the board.
That's right. Absolutely.
362 yards passing, 4 touchdowns through the air, 137 yards rushing on the ground, and then another 4 touchdowns in a 61-38 win over Acadiana. It was Coach Hunter Landry's first game as a head football coach for LCA, and boy, what a debut it's been for him. And then another fantastic game for the LSU commit. Man, those are some numbers right there for Juwan Johnson. So, Nick, you've presented the list. You presented the top 10. Give me your thoughts on what you thought about our first ever top 10 list for the 2023 season.
Like you said, just a lot of video game numbers. So many great performances this week. But it's very well deserved for all 10 players on this list. We had a lot of really close guys who came really close to making the list, and you can read all about their performances on our website later, gridironfootballusa.com. But yeah, the top 10 was insane week 1, and they're only going to get better as the season goes on. That's
what's even scary, Nick. It's not going to get worse. It's going to get better as we get through it. But what a performance. We got some pretty big numbers right there. But appreciate, once again, all of the coaches that took time out of their weekend. I know, they just finished prepping for a game week 1. You just want to you got to watch film for the next game coming up. But appreciate taking a couple of minutes of your time, making your submission for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. And I know we only mentioned 10 names here, but we've had over 30 names submitted. So to go to our website, like Nick said, go to gridironfootballusa.com to check out the entire list of all the players that were nominated and submitted for Gridiron Football Player of the Week. All the names will be on the website, including some write-ups on the top 10 players, including their highlights. So, yeah, if you want your player to be on this list, we're going to send invites we're going to send nominations every single week. So nominations are due at the very end of Sunday night. So make sure you submit your Gridiron Football Player of the Week nomination. Congratulations to Juwan Johnson for his Player of the Week performance. This is the second time he's won it. He won it last year for a Player of the Week. First time he's won it twice, and we'll get a chance to talk with Coach Landry and Juwan Johnson. That's another thing too, because not only we get to award them for Player of the Week, but we get a chance to talk to the Player of the Week every week. So we'll get a conversation with Juwan Johnson on Thursday. So
awesome.
Any final thoughts, Nick, about the Player of the Week, the first show of the year? Should be a very exciting season, and looking forward to see what we got the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Just tune into our show next week as well, and just keep up with Louisiana High School football, because there's a lot of great athletes out there.
Yeah, and then not just Louisiana, we're definitely going to branch out. So we actually have a couple of honorable mentions too that are outside the state of Louisiana. We got another one in Mississippi that's an honorable mention. We got another one in Alabama. So you don't have to be in Louisiana, guys. So if you're from a different state and you want to submit your player, feel like they had a really big showing, make sure to send it to us on all our social media. You can email me at jacematthewlejeune@gmail.com. You can contact me as well if you want to add a guy to the list. So great show. Looking forward for plenty of other ones moving forward. Make sure to keep up with all our content. GridironFootballUSA.com is the website. You can also follow us on Facebook. I guess X, right? I'm still trying to get used to that now, right?
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, I still have to call it Twitter. But Twitter, X, whatever you call it, and Instagram, and then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will have the shows on every single week. Appreciate all y'all guys watching. Looking forward for another exciting football season. For Nick Mautone, I'm Jace LeJeune. Hopefully you enjoyed this show, and we'll see y'all next week for Gridiron Football Player of the Week show. Congratulations to Juwan Johnson for being our Week 1 Player of the Week.